Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. You're listening to a new The Hacker Factory podcast with hacker maker Phillip Wylie. You're about to discover what the role of a professional hacker entails, the different specializations it holds, and what it takes to learn and become one. Enjoy the conversation as Phillip and guests unveil the secrets of professional hacking, a mysterious, intriguing, and often misunderstood occupation. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hacker Factory podcast. I'm your host, Phillip Wylie, the Hacker Maker. In each episode, I have someone from the industry working in offensive cybersecurity, specific roles like pentesting, red teaming, web app pentesting, security research, or bug bounty. And these episodes are meant to help you on your path to offensive cybersecurity and inspire you. You may be already in the field, and maybe this is something to motivate you to switch over to different disciplines within the industry. But this episode, I'm happy to introduce my friend, former student, and one of the local members of our community, John Marrin. So welcome to the show, John.
Hello, how you doing, Phil? We're very happy to be here.
Good to have you here. So I think you have a really cool story, very interesting. You know, it's an unusual way into security. I know some others have some similar backgrounds, but you don't hear much of those. But why don't you introduce yourself and kind of tell us about your background and how you got started?
Sure. So I don't know how interesting it's going to be, Phil. Come on, don't set it up like that.
Well, I think it's interesting.
So I was a police officer with the LAPD for 25 years, and then I retired from that in 2018. Kind of had an oh shoot moment where I need to reevaluate my life and figure out something new to do. And that's when I went on the journey to become an offensive security person and get into pen testing. And that's where I found myself today.
So how did you find out about pen testing? Because, this is not something I would commonly think someone from law enforcement would know about unless, they're working in some, I know some people in law enforcement work in digital forensics for some of the cases and stuff. They, it's kind of a requirement for investigations. But so how did you find out about pen testing?
So what happened was I met a guy at a bar having a beer, and he was in town at a conference, and he was like, yeah, I do cybersecurity. And I'm like, yeah, people throw that word around all the time. I'm like, what exactly do you do? And he's like, oh, well, I'm a pen tester. I basically, I'm a legal hacker. I get to break into machines and tell companies that their machines are messed up and help them fix it. So I'm like, okay, now that makes more sense to me. It's a little more interesting. And to me, the things that were fun for me at the police department were getting into the mind of criminals, and obviously helping people. And it just seemed like, I've always been into computers and stuff like that. I used to do some game development stuff, music and sound development for games and things too. So I've always been into computers since I was fairly young, just never worked in the industry at all. So it just kind of seemed like the job was at least intriguing enough for me to go and investigate it, basically. And so, of course, I went straight to Google, like everybody else would probably do in my position, who knew nothing about the industry, and started researching it. And there was like a very clear path that it seemed like everybody was going down. Hey, you got to go get these certifications. You got to go do meetups and network with people. And a lot of them were kind of based on, hey, you got to go out and, find a low-level job in IT or something. So you get some kind of experience, like practical experience in the field before you make these kind of jumps. So that's what I started going down that path. And what happened was I met a guy who was in the fintech community, and he was working in security. And he was like, yeah, you really need to go out and get your Security Plus. You really got to go out and get CEH. You really got to go out and get OSCP if you want to be a pen tester. Because really none of those other jobs they're very respectable jobs. But to me, I'm like, oh, I want to go. When I see something shiny off in the distance, I go, oh, I want to go do that. That's what I want to go do. And, I've already gone through a career where I had to build myself up from, very young and and not knowing what I was doing, and all the way through a career to at this point. So I kind of wanted to do what I wanted to do at this point. So I was like, how do I do it? And he basically was like, well, you need this, this, and this, not necessarily for the education purpose of it, but to get past the gatekeepers, the HR departments of companies, in order to be able to get hired to do something like this. So I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I started going to meetups. I did everything that I was told to do, basically. That this particular mentor kind of told me what to do, but he wasn't really that available to me because he was super busy. So I started going to meetups. I started studying for, I put together a very strict plan where I studied probably 8 to 15 hours a day, not even joking. Studying the things that I would need along the way. So my first thing that I wanted to study was to get to Security Plus. And then after I would get that, I would go to CEH, and then after that, I would try the OSCP. So along the way, started going to meetups. I went to one in Frisco, Texas here, which is where I live. And I met some bear wrestler named Phil Wylie. And everybody there was like, hey, if you want to accelerate, your way into becoming a pen tester, talk to that guy. Everyone pointed to Phil and said, hey, that's the hacker maker right there. You need to talk to that guy. I met some guys who were really, really giving to the community, like Darren Freedy and Pop Shell. And they facilitated me getting introduced to Phil. And so Phil's advice was very similar to what the other people had said, but also he's like, hey, come take my courses, and if any help you need, any advice you need, I'll give it to you, and he's a fantastic mentor. So I was very, very lucky to be where I was at, so that I got to meet him and those people. They were very extremely supportive. And even though people were like, yeah, you're shooting a little high, but if you were to be able to that's the guy that's gonna be able to help you out. So I went and I took Phil's courses down at Dallas College, I believe it's called now, and just kept studying every day. First knocked out the Security Plus, then went and knocked out the CEH, which I know everybody would be groaning about right now, but it works. And then I went on to study the most difficult thing, which was for me, which was the OSCP. And we can talk about, we could probably go on for a long time about how I prepared for that, but I literally went from ground zero, not knowing much of anything, to going up the chain, getting those certifications. Again, those meetups were so important, just not just for learning and having fun with people, because everybody's really nice and supportive. And you can learn a ton there of, real practical things that, people in the industry are actually doing instead of, theories from books. But, networking wise, there's no equal to it. Ultimately, after all the studying that I did, it took probably about 2.5 years. Phil, just by happenstance, Phil put out there on the internet, or on Twitter, I won't call it the internet, I'll call it Twitter, that I was looking for a job, and that, I was a decent student, and somebody responded from the internet, from a particular company. A few people responded, actually, and I took a few interviews, took my first technical interview in my entire life, which was nerve-wracking, and I blew horribly. But then it prepared me. It's like, okay, you got to go do it. And I went out and I took those technical interviews, even though, I didn't do too well. But the next time it helped me learn what it was expected of me, basically, not just book smarts. It was, what the technical aspect and being able to communicate what was needed of me there. So eventually I ended up getting a call from a place called the Denim Group, which is based down in San Antonio, Texas. And I actually interviewed for the AppSec people originally, and it was a tough interview. And I left that interview going, okay, these people are never going to call me. But they did call me back, and they said, hey, man, no, you don't get the job. So that was cool. But he's like, hey, but we have we think that you're going to be perfect for the network side of things. We think that your skill set's more to that discipline. So we got you an interview. So, even though I failed that first interview with that company, they put me to the NetSec side, and I interviewed with them, and they liked me, gave me a job. And it was, I can't thank them enough for, giving me the chance. And then it was all up to me completely to shine once I got there. And that's, once I got there and started working, that's where my real education started, where I turned the kind of book smarts into actual practical pen testing. So I'm a consultant with Denim Group was bought out recently by Coalfire. So now I'm a consultant with Coalfire.
Very cool. And for people that have listened to the episode with Heath, the cyber mentor, this is the person that was mentioned. There was
no.
Yeah.
Yes, me and Phil got flamed out on Twitter because because he was supporting me, and I used to be a cop, and some guy from Germany was like, hey, why are you coming into our beautiful, peaceful profession? You're not allowed.
Yeah. Someone accusing you of being toxic. Someone, kind of assuming you're toxic, being very toxic themselves, but just for reference of people on there. And John's a super nice guy, and not the way he was being stereotyped, but just the reference for those that keep track of have been watching or listening to the podcast. And if you haven't yet, you'll want to go back and listen to Heath's episode. So really great couple takeaways on here, before I forget to, awesome that you bring up is, one of the things you got to learn nowadays is like John went for his goal, and you're going to get a lot of that advice these days, because what's happened is this person is giving you this advice, has been in the industry 20 years. They were on the help desk. They went to desktop support. Maybe they were sysadmin. Maybe they became a developer. Then they moved into security. That's kind of the way they did it. And there was things they learned along the way. But you can learn those skills without having to spend 10 or 15 years as a sysadmin. You can take some courses and learn the operating systems. Doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of time there to get that experience. So as John did, follow your goal and go for it. I mean, sometimes if you're not getting there, then maybe you have to take another job to get your foot in the door. That might make it easier. So that's a great takeaway there. The other great takeaway is the networking. You mentioning the networking, and that was another big thing that people that are new in the industry trying to get started, and the biggest thing that's preventing them is getting in is they don't know anyone in the industry. Because once you've been in this long enough, you don't have to apply for jobs and all that stuff. You just use your network, and you'll find jobs easily. And that's one of the things that served me well. And so that's a couple really good tips that you saved there. And it's good that you shared there, and it's good that you jumped right in, and it's good that you made it. I've seen other people. I've had students that weren't working as hard as you, but they had the ambition and the guts enough to go apply for a pen testing job and got it. So that's one of the things I think when people are mentoring and trying to help others out, don't ever give them anything to doubt about, kind of encourage them instead, because, older we get, we lose confidence and we don't think we can do certain things like, when you're a kid. It's like that one meme where it says something about have the ambition of a toddler in a Batman shirt, because when you're that age, you're like, you think you can do anything in the world. And as you get older, you have failures and you have bad, experiences with people that kind of hurt your confidence and along the way. And so definitely good that you had the confidence and you wanted it bad enough that you went out for it and went for it. So great job.
Yeah. and Papa Shell, I know you're out there and you'll be listening to this. Hey man, you told me I wouldn't be able to do it, and I made you proud. No, I'm just kidding. No, he was nothing but supportive. And it's just funny because he was like, "Oh, you really want to go for that? That's really hard. You don't really know anything." And I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." But if you set your mind toward, like Phil's saying, if you set your mind towards something and you really work hard. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. What I did was extremely hard. Required a lot of time, a lot of effort on my part. But if you really want something bad enough, I mean, you can get it. You just got to go. You just got to put in the work. That's all there is to it.
And so how many months or years did it take you to get to that point?
It was about 2.5 years between the time I started actually studying, and then by the time until I actually got that job.
And really based on what you did, you really fast tracked it, because anyone that's putting in 10 to 15 hours a day or so,
yep,
over that time, that's a lot of time to put in. But for those listening, if you've been working in IT or some of these areas that people tell you have to go into, then you kind of pick up some of those things that John was learning along the way. But that's a really on the fast track when you're putting in that much time, because, a lot of people, may put in 4 or 5 hours a day or something like that. And then you hear someone else used to have a kind of a pretty intense learning schedule or training, was like commander from the community. I heard people say that he would get home from work and then he'd spend, I forget how many hours each night learning to hack, because he got the OSCP and the OSCE. And so, yeah, it's pretty amazing sometimes what people go through. So after you went through all that, did you kind of feel any kind of burnout, or did you need a kind of a break to kind of recuperate from all that intense training for that period of time?
No, I didn't need a break. The thing about it is that, and I'll just kind of touch on the point you were making earlier, which was, or the point that I was saying, I really came from ground zero. I mean, I had no skills, no, IT background, nothing. I mean, I used, Windows computers. I used Macs for most of my life, but I used Windows computers at work to type reports, basically. And so I really didn't do much. I really had no experience networking or any of that stuff. If I would have turned the tables back, I was fresh and I was young, I would definitely go the route of, and my advice to anybody would be to go the route of, start out IT help desk, go into a SOC, as a first time job, because I've had to learn all that stuff on the fly now that I'm at work. So it's not really there hasn't really been an opportunity for me to kind of dial back my learning curve at all. So I'll go to work and I'll be forced into learning stuff, which is a way that I like to learn anyway. But I'll be forced into learning things that I have no idea about, just by the nature of, as a consultant, you're supposed to be the expert in a particular, in most of the disciplines that we work, and we do all kinds of different things where I'm working. So, I would definitely, so to answer your question, I really didn't have any time to get burned out. Plus I like learning new stuff. I mean, it's fun to learn new stuff. And this industry is just, I mean, you have to learn something new every single day. I mean, I've been doing assessments. I've been doing pen tests where literally you start the pen test and some 0-day drops the second day you're on the test, and they're already vulnerable, and you got to tell them about it and adapt to what you're doing based on that. So, your learning never stops. You just kind of got to love it. And I do love it. I mean, I love learning new stuff. I have a kind of a philosophy about how to learn that kind of, for me, avoids burnout, which is, if you're doing something tedious, that's not the funnest thing, like reporting or something like that, just try and do that. Say you got 2 hours to study 2 hours on how you're going to do whatever, insert tedious task, and then spend 2 hours doing something that you find fun. Go on Hack the Box and pop some shells or something, and do things that are fun, to work on that side of the thing. But you're never going to have to be able to stop learning. So you kind of got to get used to constant learning curve. even if you do know a lot of stuff. So
that's some good advice there, because anything you can keep doing to learn. Because one of the things I find it can be helpful too is, if you're kind of getting bored and you need a break or something, watching videos, sometimes watching some walkthroughs and stuff can be kind of helpful.
yeah, well, I'm a musician, so among other things. So, if you're a guitar player, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, learning scales is boring and horrible. But what you can do with them once you do learn them is, you have command of the whole guitar neck and play solos and do things like that. So, one day learn, for a couple hours, memorize scales. And then for a couple hours after that, go learn some song that you want to learn, or you do something fun, So yeah, I just temper the tedious with something fun, and it should help you through burnout.
Yeah, you've made really great progress too, because just talking to you, one of our last, the meeting before last in Denton, when we just kind of had the social get together, and you're talking about some of the things you're doing, you're really, really progressing really well. So what is probably the most interesting thing you've pen tested?
Well, we just did ATMs. ATMs are fun. My partner, who I will give a shout out to, he's on Twitter, Game of Pwns. Fantastic guy. Really knows his stuff. It just helps me immensely. I mean, I think that's another reason why not only do I not get burned out, but I get to learn. And it's at an accelerated rate. So I probably I don't know what Phil's talking about, but if I sound like I know what I'm talking about, it's because of the people that I'm surrounded with every day. I mean, they're really superstars as far as pen testing. So I just kind of follow on their coattails. But he told me the other day, at the end of the week, we went down and we tested some ATMs, and he's like, at the end of the week, he's like, well, now you can say you're an ATM hacker. And I'm like, all right, cross that one off. So yeah, we do all kinds of interesting things. That's cool, because you get to mess around with kiosk, basically, kiosk, and it's not just being on somebody's network. Not only it is being on somebody's network, but you're being on somebody's network, and you're also get to physically attack things, which is kind of fun as well.
Yeah, and then you get to mess with the hardware and stuff too. Yeah. I never got to do it, but I used to manage the third-party ATM pen test until they brought it in-house. But that's a pretty good skill, not something you get to do all the time. So that's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, anytime you get to touch something, it's kind of cool. Those kiosk breakouts are awesome.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's pretty scary when you see some of that stuff. Thinking these things makes you glad that your money's insured or something, because these ATMs, pretty interesting. Some of the jackpotting attacks and stuff that they have too are pretty interesting.
And that's the thing too, is when you go into some kind of assessment. I mean, it's the great thing about consulting, let's put it that way, is that you never know what you're going to be doing the next week. So it could be just a standard external, pen test to somebody's external facing infrastructure, or it could be an internal pen test. It could be testing ATMs. It could be any number of things. And you're expected to be the expert, but you're not. I mean, let's face it, I don't test ATMs every single day. I wouldn't call myself an expert, but the week prior to going and doing those assessments, getting to educate yourself on how to pen test those things, what are the latest vulnerabilities, how to do kiosk breakouts and things like that. It's super fun, because you get to learn something that's completely brand new to you, and I think your value as a pen tester just grows immensely. I mean, I would highly suggest anybody brand new to pen testing in general, for your first job, definitely being a consultant is the way to go, because if you can get the job, because it's just, you get to do an immense amount of things, and your learning curve is incredible, and you get to, you come out the other side a lot better pen tester for sure.
Yeah, I kind of refer to, you're kind of learning in dog years, because I mean, I did it for 10 years, and just some of the stuff you get to do there, because there's some technologies you're testing that your company may not have, because not all companies have ATMs. But one of the things you kind of show there for the listeners is, you build these basic skills up, or these different hacking skills in different areas that can be applied to different areas. Because you're mentioning kiosk breakout. So there's kiosks in hotels and airports and other things where a pen tester, this would be handy. And if you get experience with that, then if you ever get a chance to test ATMs, you can use that knowledge there. So it's building up the base across those other different technologies.
Right. And it's also a mindset too. It's like, I have a different mindset than, it's great to go to these conferences and things like that and talk to people like Darren and yourself, because you get to listen to everybody, how everyone would approach a particular problem. And, everybody's mindset's different, but ultimately, like, that hacker mindset is the important part, which is, just don't give up and just keep going, keep pushing at something, keep fuzzing it, keep, attacking until something, kicks you back, something to work with. I think that mindset is that you can spread that to anything. No matter what the job they give you, you can spread that hacker mindset to whatever the problem happens to be or whatever it is that you're testing. So it's great.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And once you kind of develop that mindset, you just don't look at things the same way anymore. So if you're out somewhere and you see a USB drive, a thumb drive laying on the ground, you just automatically think there's something on there.
Throw some good pictures on there is what there is. Come on. Plug it in. See.
Like malware. Yeah, it's funny that someone at DHA one time, the talk he gave was at DC 214, our local DEF CON group, and he was mentioning with USB drives, the thumb drives, the easiest way for him to get people to plug them in, and he's had a pretty high success rate, was saying if you put it in a personal item, so if you put it in a purse, a backpack, right, some kind of personal item, people are more than likely to take a look at it. And sometimes that's someone just looking to see who it belongs to, or someone just thinking it, I think it seems less dangerous if they think someone left their bag behind or lost it.
Yeah, put a sticker on it that says "My Bitcoin Wallet."
Yeah. Or within a company, if you put like payroll,
exactly,
or label it bonuses or something, and people get curious to see what's going on there.
CEO payroll dump.
So just I'm curious, how is your past life in law enforcement? Has that helped you in pen testing?
Let's see. How has it helped me in pen testing?
Or has it helped you? I mean,
I think it helped me in pen testing in that when depending on the job you have, but I worked patrol for the majority of my life at the LAPD. So that's something new every single day, and you don't know what you're stepping into every single time you get a call. So that helps you, especially in consulting, because it's going to be the same thing. Every week is going to be something, sometimes twice a day, so it'll be something new and interesting. And then you just have to be the mindset to kind of switch what it is that you're doing on the fly. And, 1 week you're testing, ATMs, next week you're testing, external networks or something like that. Or, you're testing applications that are internet facing or whatever. It's just, you have to have that mindset that you have no idea what you're going to get yourself into, because as soon as you start throwing packets downstream, you're going to get back information. You're going to find things out, and every single one of those things is going to be different, new, and interesting. So you just have to be ready to handle whatever is thrown at you.
Yeah, it kind of seems like some of that stuff, some of that experience might be helpful in social engineering or maybe even physical assessments. So if you've kind of, based on your experience seeing break-ins and stuff, that I was just kind of curious if there wouldn't be information from the past you've seen there that might be helpful in trying to, do like a physical assessment of a building or something.
Well, there's things that I think would definitely help out in that way, but I can't really talk about those, Phil. No, I'm just kidding. Definitely. I think the most important thing that I learned being on the police department is just watching criminals do what they do. Like, if you're sitting, there's a million different things you can do, but if you're sitting there watching somebody do something wrong and just seeing what their mentality is and how they go about it, or how they gather up the courage to do it, and then they throw some stuff out there, and if it works, then they're like, okay, cool, then I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing there. Oh, I didn't get caught yet, so I'm going to keep going down this road. I think learning that mindset is what has been, learning to appreciate that mindset, I think has been really helpful for me. So, it's just something that interests me too. So, finding out about, miter attack and all the different APTs and just really having an interest in like, how do these guys do that? I mean, is something that keeps you learning. It's something I'm interested in. And I think that's what I took from that experience. That keeps me going in this career for sure.
There's one thing you have that will be one skill that you gain that will be helpful if you haven't experienced yet. So you've had some experience dealing with hostile people. So some of the report readouts, be able to control your temper. Because have you had any of those yet? That is like when you're doing these readouts and someone in IT, you tell them this vulnerability, they think they really secured this stuff well. You find something, and sometimes they take it personal. It's like you tell them, you told them their baby's ugly or something like that. They get all offended. So
I'm just trying to help you. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously those dealing with hostile people, you don't take anything personal, and you also realize, especially when you walk into a particular situation, there's usually 4 or 5 different perspectives going on. Like if you walk into a domestic violence situation, not only you got the man, the wife, you got the kids, you got the mom in the back room, you got other officers injecting their personalities into it. You got a ton of different inputs going on at that particular time. And every single person's got their own perspective. So I think being able to take a step back, like how you feel when you're getting a finger pointed in your face and told you're an idiot, you can just see what their perspective is. Like this, this guy's been doing this for 20 years. This is his baby, basically. And you're telling him it's a mess. It can be jarring for some people, but I think if you have the ability to come across as a person that's there to help them, and that's all you care about is just helping them, that works wonders. And then when people start getting aggressive with you, just take it and just keep moving on. You don't need to. When somebody throws a punch at you, you don't need to return in kind. You can just dodge the punch. So that's probably something that translates as well, dealing with people, especially when they get upset.
So we're getting down towards the end of the podcast. Is there any advice or anything you'd like to share before we end the show?
I think we probably pretty much covered most of it. I'm, if something's tedious, just temper it with something else. Temper it with something that you really, really like. This industry, I think, is a lot about your people skills. Like police work is about 2 seconds of sheer terror mixed with 90 hours of reporting. So this industry is pretty much the same thing. The sheer terror is thinking that you're not going to find anything wrong. And then when you do, you're like, whoa, wow, this is exciting for a second. And then you're like, oh, okay, now I got to write this thing up. So just be prepared for that. And, you work on those soft skills is probably a really, really important thing. You got to be able to talk to people. You got to be able to listen to people all up a chain, who probably know a lot more than you do on certain things and probably don't on others. And just, if you're going to help them, you got to be able to communicate with them in a way that they understand or a way that's important to them. So those things are really important, not just hacking boxes, but being able to communicate what you did, how you did it to the right audience is definitely a skill that's super important. So yeah, and keep going. Don't let anybody tell you can't do it. For sure. I mean, if somebody says there's no way you're going to go from ground zero to being a pen tester, 2.5 years is what it takes. But you got to study really hard.
Well, thanks for sharing your story and your knowledge with us, John.
No problem. Appreciate you, Phil. As always, you're responsible for me today. So
I was happy to help you. It's always great. One of the things that I like about mentoring and teaching is, success feels good, but when you can help someone else succeed, that feels a little bit better. And when you're able to help multiple people, then you can experience that more than what you could on your own. So that's one of the things that keeps me going. So thanks again.
Definitely.
And thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Take care. See you, Phil.
See you.
BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Hacker Factory podcast with Phillip Wylie. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.